What's up? It's me again.
You okay?
So I guess my little channel's still limping along. For some reason the last 4 reports have fallen to about half or less of the usual views, which is a bit annoying.
I can't believe this story you're telling me. It's macabre.
Anyway, I needed to get this report up before Saturday, as it's my last game with the old Thousand Suns codex. Way back in report 47, I faced Ultramarines and just about scraped a win. It's a pretty cool report, and if you haven't seen it then you should go watch it.
Right fucking now, okay?
Wow, so much anger in this report already.
Wait till I get going!
And so many memes. Where was I? Oh yeah, after match 47 we said we should play a rematch, with me using Magnus this time. So this is that. After the report I'll briefly give some thoughts on the new Thousand Suns stuff, and talk about some potential plans I have for the army. Let's get on with the rosters. We're playing Vital Intelligence, and this time we're using an old standard size board, cause it's all we had to hand. For secondaries, I took Psychic Interrogation, Engage, and the mission-specific Data Intercept, while the Smurfs took Grind, Assassinate, and Data Intercept too. Vital Intelligence is the diagonal deployment mission, and as usual it was an absolute chore to set up. I think this map is stupid and unnecessary.
I do. And I'm tired of pretending it's not.
Well, whatever. Here's deployment. I start Magnus in reserve to be on the safe side, although with the relatively short-range guns on the Redemptors it may have been okay to start on the table, with the option of a turn 1 warp time for a massive 32 inches of potential repositioning. Won't have that frickin' option in the new codex, though. With the buildings at my disposal it simply wasn't possible to hide my big vehicles, so I just have to line up and brace for impact. I used the strat to infiltrate one squad of rubrics up onto the top left objective. Ultramarines deploy ultra-conservatively with everything hiding outside of line of sight. Then they get the first turn, so they use their ultra strat to yank several of their units forward like so. The 2 invader ATVs are up here, behind the wall. You can just about see them in this shot. All of the infantry is huddling in this building, except for the assault intercessors who are in the impulsor, and both squads of termies are in deep strike. Okay, let's get into the battle.
Let's go.
In turn 1, the mechanized Smurfs press forward like so. The assault intercessors disembark onto an objective, but this gets corrected when my opponent realizes the impulsor had advanced. A closer look at their main battle line. In Psychic, I think he just makes one of the Redemptors toughness 8 with Might of Heroes, and then casts Psychic Fortress, giving all his dreadnoughts a 5+ invulnerable.
That's outrageous.
At least all Thousand Suns vehicles will get this for free all the time in the new book.
Perfectly balanced, this whole thing should be.
In shooting, he dedicates a fair bit of fire to my Defiler, but is quite unlucky and only manages to do 3 wounds to it. He does wipe out a squad of Rubric Marines and 3 spawn though. There are no scores on the board for Ultras yet, so it's straight on to my turn 1. I press forward with my spawn and big nasties. My rubrics in the top left start their Data Intercept action. Oh yeah, Ultras did that last turn with one of the intercessor squads hiding in their backmost ruins. Here's a closer shot of my main battle line surging forwards. My Demon Prince uses the Dark Matter Crystal to reposition over to the bottom right corner, to threaten this flank. I'm pretty okay with him being out here on his own, as he has a 3+ invulnerable thanks to Otherworldly Presence. Won't be able to do this in the new book, though, as Otherworldly Presence got nerfed to work for 1 turn only. That's okay though, as there will be other ways to make princes fairly tanky, I think. This isn't a rant about losing options or anything, this pointless rant is about GW's apparent crusade against 3+ invulnerables in general. I get that they're annoying and can sometimes feel a bit oppressive. But the problem is, on the other side of the coin GW have been boosting shooting damage out the wazoo. It doesn't feel right to strip away the most solid defense but keep buffing and buffing shooting threats. Well, whatever.
Okay.
In Psychic, I boost the Defiler up to a 4++ and give it +1 to hit. I also warp time the Mauler Fiend up towards the ATVs. Won't be able to do that in the new book. Okay, I'll stop using that clip. I also want to clarify that way more stuff has gotten better in the new book compared to the few things I've mentioned so far that we won't be able to do. Just from the last 2 slides, both varieties of Fiend have gotten way better, and the Defiler has improved a lot too. I'm pretty stoked about those units actually. I splash a few mortal wounds around, but nothing major. In shooting, my anti-tank fire only manages to do 4 wounds to the Leviathan. Which is pretty pointless, as he can heal up next turn. I also leave the Impulsor on 6 wounds, and take out one of the ATVs. Let's call the remaining one Gordon, for reasons which will become clear later.
Why the fuck not?
Charge time.
Does anyone have a charger?
The Demon Prince, buffed up with Diabolic Strength, fails his charge. The Spawn fail a charge into the Impulsor. Or maybe they had advanced anyway. Not sure. But the Mauler Fiend makes its easy charge into the ATV. Pretty important to kill this bugger, as it will stop the Marines from scoring grind this turn. The useless bastard fails, though, and leaves the ATV on 1 wound.
Gordon's alive!
So Marines do score grind, putting them on 3 points. I score engage, for 2, so Marines are ahead by 1 point at the end of turn 1. I usually do a scorecard each turn, but it's not really necessary this game, as things spiral out of hand soon. I'll return to the score again before the end of the match, though. In turn 2, Ultras bring a unit of Termesen up in the top left corner, and the other unit in the bottom left corner. Go away. Here's the rest of the board. The Intercessors in the top right ruin do date and intercept again. The Assault Intercessors head over to my Demon Prince. I think Psychic's the same as the previous turn. Then in shooting he destroys both the Mauler Fiend and the Defiler.
But you can't do this to me.
Then, both Terminator units try a charge, with the bottom one failing, but the top one making it into the rubrics. What the fuck is it with these frickin' Terminator charges? A charge from Deep Strike is supposed to be like 25% chance, but I swear the last 5 times it's happened I always end up with my weak backfield units taking a goddamn charge to the face. Fuck's sake. Well, the Termies obviously completely muller the rubrics. Better news over here, though, as the Assault Intercessors do bugger all and all but one of them gets cut down in return. And even better over here. The Impulsor had charged the 2 Spawn to try and tie them up. But I get some hot rolls and they manage to take the last 6 wounds off the Impulsor all by themselves. I'm glad Spawn have stayed great in the new codex, and sticking a juicy 4+ invulnerable on them is gonna be pretty awesome. Anyway, Marines score a bunch of points this turn, with 5 from primaries and, spoiler alert, they get grind. They also get 3 for assassinate, so they must have taken out one of my sorcerers. Huh? Possibly the shaman. It's my turn too, and Magnus arrives on the left flank.
Big Jungus is out.
I mean, as much as I'd like to get him stuck into the dreads, I can't leave these 2 units of Termies here to rampage through my army. This also keeps him relatively safe from the dreads' firepower for a turn. Here's a shot of the rest of the board. Sorry it's a bit blurry. Side note, I played a match recently against Iron Hands, which was meant to be a report, but I just had too few picks to make sense of the flow of the battle, and many of the ones I did have were blurry. I don't know if my opponent watches my channel, but if so, my apologies.
I failed you.
I used Custodes, and got absolutely mullered, in case you're wondering, with my Shadowkeeper's Telemon getting blown off the board turn 1, the first time I've ever seen that happen. Anyway, back to the report. My untouched unit of Spawn starts heading for the top unit of Termies, and I warp time it towards them too. Magnus and Ahriman focus on the bottom unit, killing 2 with their mine bullets. You can see my unit of Zangor cowering in the ruins, having been thinned out by the Termies last turn. Man, regardless of our awesome new psychic shenanigans, I'm so fucking annoyed that they screwed Zangors over in the new codex. Whoever wrote it is clearly some kind of hardcore caprophobe. Go away, caprophobe. Sorry, I said I'd stop using that clip, didn't I?
I failed you.
Shooting's fairly uneventful, as I pretty much just have the halberd and the plucky enlightened. Of note, however, I do try to rob
Gordon's
last wound with the enlightened. They only get one goddamn motherfricking pissing hit, but it wounds, and Gordon fails his save and dies.
I mean, that was a fucking shot, wasn't it?
Oh, I forgot to mention, the Demon Prince kills the last assault intercessor with Smite, too? And Magnus gets his nice little 3+ invulnerable up and running. All together now?
Won't be able to do that in the new codex.
You said it again, but maybe that's the last time.
Right, so the two spawn here charge some intercessors, killing 3 and only losing 1 wound in return? And up here the other unit, which obviously went first, kills 1 Terminator and loses 2 guys. Annoyingly, Magnus failed his charge into the bottom unit of Termies. As this is a whole 2 mission, I didn't score any primaries this turn, thanks to the fucking top unit of Termies, and the only other points I score are 2 more for engage. Meanwhile Marines scored a bunch more, so the score something like 16-4 to the Marines at the end of turn 2.
We're gonna lose. And we're gonna lose huge.
Here's the board after Marines turn 3 movement. A better shot so you can see their trio of dreads, stomping around unchallenged. Go away dreads. The 2 surviving Termies down here square up to airy men. And I thought I'd include this better shot of his captain and Libby, cause they look frickin' cool. Psychic's the same as normal, I think, and in shooting one of the dreads just unloads all over my Demon Prince. Here's my 3+ save roll.
Oh! Just what got me.
So the prince is sent back to the warp in ignominy. Not sure why I have this shot of Magnus, it's probably to show that he bossed his invulnerable save against the other dreads. Well, the only combat this turn is over here. The 2 Termies charge Airyman, but they fail to take his last 3 wounds. In return, he strikes back with furious vengeance, and fricking kills both of them.
Let me through, I have an erection!
It's thanks to the awesome 3 damage on his staff. I forgot he can be such a beast in combat. This turn will be pretty quick to summarize. Magnus flies up to pick on the top unit of Termies. The Enlightened fly out ready for a cheeky warp time, and everyone else except the Halberd, which is over here somewhere, just hides. The Enlightened get warp time to safety and behind these ruins, and Magnus gets his full defensive suite of buffs off, and blasts 2 of the Termies to death. The Halberd just does 3 wounds to a Redemptor. Again, completely pointless. Finally, Magnus charges the remaining Termies, and makes short work of them.
That shit is too easy. It's too easy.
I did get 5 for primaries this turn, and I got a data intercept. I only go up to like 10 points or so. Note, I haven't been able to get any points for psychic interrogation yet. I don't recall a single occasion where to do so wouldn't have meant the death of the psyker who attempted it. I'm stoked for the new secondaries in our book, as I think we've got some great ones that'll really help us compete. Ultramarines turn 4. We only need 2 slides for this turn. Here's his movement, with the Leviathan and 1 Redemptor taking the north road, and the other Redemptor ranging south. Psychic's uneventful. In shooting, he puts everything he can into Magnus, but only manages 9 wounds.
Hey, you buggers!
Marines do continue to run away on points, though. My turn 4. I'm relying on Magnus to carry the game for me now, then. He heads over towards the nearby dreads. My Halberd, which is somehow still alive, prepares to fire at the 3rd dread. This is where Magnus strips up.
He's not all he's cracked up to be.
He heals up to 12 wounds, but fails to cast Weaver of Fates, for the 3++. He re-rolls, and still fails. Fuck. He does get glamour off, fortunately, and he and Airyman blast the Redemptor dread to within an inch of its life, leaving it on 2 wounds. He then charges both dreads, splitting attacks, and finishes off the Redemptor, but he wasn't able to strip the Leviathan of its invulnerable save, and it survives with a few wounds left. In the last turn, Marines finally pop their frickin' Seal of Oath thing, giving rerolls to hit and wound to the remaining Redemptor, who strides forwards to take him at Magnus, along with the Leviathan which falls back. With their combined shooting, they are able to easily finish off the weakened Magnus.
Walk out the door, you see someone that you know and they ask you how you are, and you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
In my turn 5, the tattered remnants of my forces just prance around a bit, and I pick up a couple more points and 5 for primaries. I'm finally able to attempt a psychic interrogation with impunity, but my useless piece of shit of a Termi sorcerer frickin' fails to cast it. The game ends with a 64-29 win for the Ultramarines. So there you have it. The Blueberry Smurf poster boys got their revenge in this epic rematch. I felt like I didn't really have the ability to put any kind of dent in his firepower with my own, and any attempt to send my casters forward too early to start focusing down his dreads would doubtless have been disastrous. I think the extra psychic boost and the far superior secondaries, in the upcoming codex, will go some way to making this type of matchup a lot more even in future, hopefully. Speaking of the new codex, I'll give some very brief thoughts on it based on what I know so far. Let's start with the bad. I am pretty down about the fact that Magnus didn't get any more survivable. As you saw in this match, once his 3-up invulnerable goes away, he folds quite easily. Yes, he now has -1 damage, but I am fairly certain that won't be enough to keep him alive. I'm not asking for him to be indestructible, just to not be a complete liability. Anyway, he's still usable, especially with the awesome boost to his psychic phase, but he'll need to be kept in reserve still in many matchups, which is annoying. Combined with the inability to warp time him now, and I can see him being even trickier to use than before. The other thing I'm annoyed about is the vicious caprophobia running rampant through the codex. I don't care what anyone says, my goat boys have been well and truly done dirty. My poor goat boys. Go away, goat haters. Fortunately, the good is pretty much the rest of the codex. 5-up invulnerables on all our vehicles, massive improvements to demon engines and our dusty boys, and an absolute metric shit ton of sneaky shenanigans we can pull off with the new cabal points and new strats. Oh, and the mutilith is actually good now, fuck yes. I'm excited to start digging into it and seeing what tricks we can pull off. In terms of the army going forward, I'm considering adding some more Hellbrutes, as they seem great with an Invun now, as well as a Forge Fiend, which I've wanted for a while. I have my eye on a few Forge World options too, which may make an appearance in the future. Altogether, it's pretty exciting stuff. So I've rambled enough for one report, I think. Just as an aside, reports might be a bit thin on the ground for a while, and I'm not sure when the next one will be. I've been enjoying playing games without taking photos, as making these reports has started to take a long time, and I just have other stuff I want to be doing, to be honest. Making the reports takes way longer than playing the actual games, and it was starting to get a bit annoying. But I do still enjoy making them, so this channel isn't going anywhere. Besides, what else am I gonna do with all my clips? As usual, thanks to my opponent for the great game, and thanks to you, yes you, for watching it. Please like, comment, subscribe, etc., and I'll see you in a few weeks for the next report.